What's going on there, YouTube, and welcome back to another comic book video. Guys, we are here. We are actually at the very end of the Hellions series. We actually pick up with Hellions number 16, 17, and 18. And this wraps up the entire Hellions series that we have been covering on my channel. So these are the final 3 issues. Now, with that being said, we actually pick up in Brooklyn, where our last video left off at, because you have to remember, the Hellions had just discovered that when it came to their boss, Mr. Sinister, he was building some kind of cloning facility to give him the ability to make a godlike clone of himself. And if he was able to actually complete that clone, it would bring a whole lot more problems to Earth, but especially the mutant race. But when the Hellions had found out about what Sinister was actually doing, Havoc went crazy. So crazy, he unleashed his powers completely to the point he blew up the entire facility. And so that godlike clone that Sinister was building, yeah, it's gone forever. But on top of that, though, so was Psylocke's daughter. Because we have to remember, when it came to Psylocke's daughter, she was being held by Mr. Sinister as a way to make sure that Psylocke fell in line. Because Sinister had the only backup ever created for the daughter of Psylocke that could give her the ability to bring her back to life. And so Psylocke had no choice but to work for Sinister. But when the Hellions found out about what happened here in this laboratory, Havoc went crazy. On top of that, in our last video, the Hellions found out that Sinister basically used them to gather Arakian's DNA back in the X of Swords crossover event. And so, with all that happening in our last video, and now with this video right here, you have the Hellions badly injured because, again, Havoc blew up the cloning facility that belonged to Mr. Sinister. But right now, the question is, what comes next for this team? Because right now, they're all badly injured. They're all badly hurt emotionally, especially Psylocke. And so you have each character kind of wondering, what is the next step for them after this moment? And so that is the moment you have the X-Men arrive, the new X-Men team that's being written by Gary Dugan. And so right now you have the X-Men team say, hey, come on, let's go. We came here to take you guys back to COPPA. And so then we actually pick up with the Hellions in the Healing Garden. Now with the Healing Gardens, of course, like the name says itself, it gives people the chance to actually heal up after going on a different mission, no matter what team you're actually on. Now, with that being said, we do see Emma Frost and Cyclops watching over the Hellions, but they do have a meeting in private. Now, at first, it's really more of Cyclops showing concern for his brother, because in this entire series, Havoc would just have some crazy moments and then just try to blow up places left and right. And so this is Cyclops telling Emma Frost that he's actually worried for his brother. Now, for Emma Frost, she's kind of like, hey, it's okay, because honestly, your brother right now is a hero. If he did not blow up that last place, the cloning facility that belongs to Sinister, Sinister would have the chance to release a clone of himself as a god. And that right there is a huge no-no. Now, on top of that, though, we did learn at the end of our last video that Empath was the one who would use his powers on different team members of the Hellions, because when it comes to Empath, he has the ability to make you feel some type of way. So if he wants you to feel crazy, angry, or happy, he could actually do that. Now, you also have Emma Frost telling Cyclops about Kawanin, because right now she is trying to leave. And that right there is a huge problem, because Kawanin is one of the many captains of COPPA. Oh, by the way, if you have no idea who Kawanin is, she's actually Psylocke on the Hellions team. But This is Emma Frost actually asking Cyclops to talk to her so that she will not leave the island, because she's planning to actually leave COPPA forever. But then we shift our focus on the actual Hellions team in the Healing Gardens to kind of show that right now this team is basically fractured. And what I mean by that is you do have Grey Crow actually tell Empath that he is going to kill Empath. And the reason why, because Grey Crow knows that Empath used his powers on Havoc to make Havoc go crazy. And Grey Crow told Empath, if you ever use your powers again on anybody on this team, I'm going to kill you. And so this right now is Grey Crow telling Empath that basically I'm going to kill you. Now, then we have to shift our focus over to Nanny and Orphan Maker. Now remember, when it comes to Orphan Maker, he's really a grown man, but has the mind of a child. And originally, the nanny would take care of Orphan Maker. But in our last video, she got a robotic baby, an AI baby. And so all her attention has been basically focused on the baby and ignoring Orphan Maker. And for Orphan Maker, he does not understand why she so much loves the baby over him when he came first and always been there for her. And we also see that there is some problems between Psylocke and Wild Child as well, because we have to remember, when it comes to Wild Child, he's more like an animal rather than a regular human, because the way his mind works, he thinks like an animal. And so if you basically beat down on him in some kind of way, he looks at you as a leader, a pack leader. And so he looked at Psylocke as a pack leader because she basically beat down on him earlier in this series. But of course, she's kind of like, I want to be left alone, because now she has to figure out a way to possibly bring her daughter back, which honestly, she may not find another way to actually bring back her daughter. Because again, remember, Havoc blew up the entire cloning facility where Sinister was only keeping the one backup copy of Psylocke's daughter at. And so with that entire lab being blown up, now her daughter could most likely not be brought back to life. But after you have Psylocke say goodbye to Wild Child, you then see her be confronted by Cyclops. Now, this is Cyclops really hoping that maybe he'll be able to actually convince Psylocke not to leave. Like, he's really hoping that maybe he can actually talk around the idea of leaving COPPA behind, and COPPA losing one of their best war captains at a time like this. But for Psylocke, in her mind, she's like, why would I stay? There's nothing left here for me. But on top of that, I want to go out into the world and hunt down the bad people in the world without worrying about the idea of disrespecting this island or following some kind of code. And so this is her saying, it's all my fault. I lost my daughter. I should have done something else to get my daughter back. And now she's gone forever. Now it's Cyclops saying, it's not your fault though. Like, Sinister made you play dirty with the idea that you might get your child back. But for Psylocke, she still failed as a mother. And so she wants to leave the island now. But then we see another meeting going on. And this meeting actually takes place between Havoc and Emma Frost. Now, this meeting is actually very important. And the reason why, because it's Emma Frost wanting Havoc to feel happy about the idea that he was able to stop Sinister from becoming a god. But for Havoc, he's like, I destroyed an entire lab. In that lab, there was only one way to bring back Psylocke's daughter. And now that way is gone forever. So how can I feel happy about that? But Emma Frost knows what makes Havoc happy. And so she tells Havoc, hey, I talked to the Quiet Council, and we are going to bring back Madeline Pryor. And for Havoc, this is huge. Because remember, Madeline Pryor is the clone of Jean Grey, but she also turned evil in the late 80s, early 90s. Either way though, Havoc and her fell in love with one another. But the question was, why didn't the mutants of COPPA bring her back to life? Yes, she is a clone of Jean Grey, but so is X-23. So is Scout. They're clones of Wolverine. And you brought those characters back whenever they die. So why not Madeline Pryor? Because she's evil? Well, hey, you have other evil mutants on COPPA. And so at first, they did not want to bring her back to life, but this is Emma Frost telling Havoc, we are going to bring her back to life. Just for you. And Havoc is happy. Now, once Havoc leaves, you do have Empath appear, which honestly, we knew that Empath was working for Emma Frost. It was Empath who used his powers on Havoc to make Havoc go crazy. And so this is Empath saying, hey, you know what? Listen, I don't mind what I did because honestly, I had a blast. But then we pick up with Grey Crow and also Wild Child. And Grey Crow meant what he's going to do, meaning that he's coming after Empath. And when he does see Empath, he is going to kill Empath because honestly, he hates the idea that Empath broke the bond. Do not use your powers on your fellow teammates. And he did. And when he did use his powers, he made Havoc go crazy. Havoc blew up that laboratory, and now Psylocke cannot get her daughter back. And for Grey Crow, the woman he loves is now in pain. So yeah, he's coming after Empath full force. But then we actually pick up with the nanny. Now, when we actually pick up with the nanny, right now, she's trying to take care of the new baby that she had received earlier in this series. Now, remember, this baby is an AI, a very special AI. And you'll see what I mean here in a moment. But while she is trying to take care of this baby, she is basically contacted by Harold, her husband. This is huge because we met Harold in our last video. Harold is the lead scientist for the Right, this new evil, not really new, they're old, but this old organization in Marvel Comics that wants to kill off mutants. But Harold is the lead scientist in that organization. But he realized that because he was married to the nanny a long time ago, and the nanny was also part of the Right, he has the ability to control her ship because he still has all the access codes to her ship. But this is him coming after the baby, the AI baby that the nanny's right now taking care of. And there is a very good reason why he wants that baby. And you'll see why here later on in the story. But with Harold Munch being able to take over the ship and basically attack the nanny, get the baby, and blow up the ship, it's kind of like, man, well, there goes her brand new baby. And you do have Orphan Maker check up on the nanny because for years and years and years and years, Orphan Maker, his mindset is set as a child, but on top of that, he looks at the nanny as his mom. And so when he sees the lady who supposedly is his mom's ship blow up, he's very concerned for her. He goes over there to see how she is doing, but she does not care for him right now because we have to remember the nanny, Orphan Maker, and also Wild Child, they died on Araco. And back when Araco was actually in another dimension known as Armeth. And usually when a mutant dies in Armeth and they're brought back to life, they're brought back corrupted. And when I say corrupted, I mean more aggressive. And so when it came to Wild Child, Nanny, and Orphan Maker, they came back more aggressive. But for Nanny, her aggressiveness actually evolved to a point where she kind of pushed away the guy who looks at her as his mother, the person that originally she looked at him as her son. She had pushed him away for this new AI baby. And for Orphan Maker, he cannot take the idea that the lady who once cared for him no longer wants to talk to him. And so as we jump into Hellions number 17, we do see Psylocke right now about to leave the island. she's about to say goodbye to the mutant nation. And on top of that, while she's trying to leave, you have Emma Frost, being Emma Frost, trying to tease Psylocke for actually giving up on the mutant nation. She feels like that even though she lost a chance to have a daughter in this world, Psylocke should stay here and help build up the mutant nation. But for Psylocke, why should she? And so while she's trying to leave, that is the moment you have the Stepford Cuckoos appear. Now remember, the Stepford Cuckoos are the clones of Emma Frost, but when they do appear, they come here to tell Emma Frost and Psylocke some bad news, like, hey, the nanny, her ship was attacked by the Right, and they basically took her ship, but also the new baby that she had on the ship as well. Now remember, no one else in the Hellions group or the Mutant Nation knew about Nanny having a baby, an AI baby, on the island on her ship. And so this is huge news to them right now. But then things get even worse. Because Orphan Maker knew what actually happened to the nanny, and when the Stepford Cuckoos were talking to the nanny about what happened to her in the Healing Gardens, Orphan Maker heard all of that as well. And so he knows, okay, so the Right, this evil group who's right now being run by the nanny's ex-husband, Harold, he took her ship, took her new baby, and now my mother, the nanny, is very upset. And so you have Orphan Maker say to himself that he is going to handle this problem. And so he stole a ship from COPPA and heading over to where the Right is actually at. And for Psylocke, she's kind of like, that's not good, because he'll kill everybody in the Right just to get approval from the nanny. And so this is Psylocke saying one last mission as a captain to bring back a lost team member. Now we do pick up with Harold, the lead scientist of the Right, and his science group watching what's happening right now outside their base, which is Orphan Maker going on a rampage. This dude is just gun blazing, shooting up places left and right just to get inside the base. And they're freaking out. They're like, hey, we got to release the Zeta team to protect this place right now because Homeboy is very armed. But then we jump back over to Psylocke. And when we do see Psylocke right now getting ready to leave on a jet to fly over to where Orphan Maker and the Right are actually at. But while she is trying to leave, that is the moment she is confronted by other members of the Hellions team. And this is kind of like one last hoorah. Let's work together one more time to save our lost team member. And so you have Havoc appear. You have Wild Child appear. You have Grey Crow appear. They're all here to basically help out Orphan Maker. But while they're trying to get on the jet, that is the moment you have Empath appear. Now, when he appears, Grey Crow wants to kill Empath there and right now. But Psylocke stops Grey Crow, saying, nope, don't kill him, let him be. But he is not coming on this mission because he is somebody that we cannot trust. And as soon as she says that, he realized what he did. He actually had a group of friends that he has now lost because he used his powers against his own friends. Even though he was a spy for Emma Frost, it doesn't matter. Because of what he did, his team no longer trusts him. They don't want him around at all. And so Empath gets left behind while the rest of the Hellions go try to save Orphan Maker. But when we actually jump over to Orphan Maker, we see him right now just kicking butt left and right. This is a guy right now who's trying to say, you guys went ahead and messed up now. You thought it was a good idea to take my mom's new baby? No, that's not okay. And so you have Orphan Maker just kicking butt left and right, and these guards are just freaking out. But then we actually pick up with the Hellions arriving to the facility that belongs to the Right. Now, when they do arrive, they are actually confronted by Zeta Team. Now, Zeta Team is actually a group of characters who are not really important to talk about. The only thing you need to know about Zeta Team is that they're really good at doing their job, which is protecting the facility that belongs to the right, going on different missions to kill off specific people that the right wants dead, or recovering lost items that the right had lost over time. Either way, right now, their goal is to fight against the Hellions, which honestly, I feel so bad for them because they should have known they were not going to win this battle at all. And so you have the Hellions just beat down on the Zeta team like it's nothing. I mean, whew, it's rough. But then this leads into the downfall of Orphan Maker. Because when he actually reaches the room where they were holding the scientist, Harold, and his other two scientists, and the baby, well, you do have Orphan Maker get in there, take the baby away from them. Now, he feels accomplished. He feels like when the nanny sees him, she's going to love him for what he had actually done for her. Well, except she doesn't. When she walks into the room, she shows that she is very upset about the idea that now her new baby is upset. And so she does show anger towards Orphan Maker, except here is the big problem. The baby that she took was an AI baby with the ability to make itself a mutant, but on top of that, to hate mutants. And so when she picked the baby up, it realized that she was a mutant, and so it kills off the nanny. And that right there ticks off Orphan Maker so much, he turns around, he grabs Harold, snaps his neck. Other two scientists that worked for Harold, yeah, they're dead as well. But this had just sent Orphan Maker into a killing rage. But here comes the problem though. Because when you have the Hellions being able to catch up with Orphan Maker, who's right now back outside the facility, he was so mad and full of rage, he just killed off two innocent people. These were just rangers out there in the desert, just driving around, hearing a lot of gunshots. And when they arrived, they found Orphan Maker. But because he was full of rage and hatred, he just shot up everything he saw and he killed off two innocent men. And that right there is a huge, huge no-no. Because right now it's Orphan Maker breaking one of the laws of COPPA. And so getting into the final issue of this series, Hellions number 18, and oh my god, this book is so sad, but with the final book of Hellions, we actually do pick up with the Hellions right now coming back to COPPA. Now, when they do come back to COPPA, of course, they are going to visit the Quiet Council. Now, remember, the Quiet Council is really more of a group of characters who are really the government body of COPPA. And so with them right now going to see the Quiet Council, this is the Quiet Council saying we are going to handle a very particular situation that happened earlier in the day. Now, the first person they want to talk about actually is Orphan Maker. And the reason why, because Orphan Maker did kill off two innocent people. Two people who were just stopping by because they heard a bunch of gunshots. And because COPPA has a law saying mutants cannot kill humans, especially in cold blood, and that what Orphan Maker did earlier is him going on trial. But then we actually jump back in time. And the reason why, because we are going to learn why is the rest of the team in shackles as well. Because they didn't kill anybody in cold blood like Orphan Maker did. Yes, they did kill off some humans that belonged to the right. But those humans were actually bad, trying to do bad things towards mutants. And so when it comes to the first law of the mutant race, you may not kill humans at all unless they're trying to do harm to you or harness someone else in a negative way towards the mutant race. But the people that Orphan Maker had killed were innocent men who were just confused, and basically Orphan Maker killed them off. And so with that happening, it's like, hey, they have no choice but to actually charge him because they were innocent men killed in cold blood. Now, when they come back from the right facility, they were confronted by the X-Men. Of course, the X-Men team that's being written right now by Jerry Dugan. And so when they are confronted by the X-Men team, it's Cyclops informing the Hellions, I have bad news for you. Orphan Maker has to go on trial for his crimes. Now, when it comes to the rest of the team, the Hellions, they look at Orphan Maker as a child in a man's body, which honestly is true. Yes, he's a tall man, but because of things he went through in life, it's a child's mind in a man's body. And so in the eyes of the Hellions, they're like, we cannot actually charge this guy because his mind's a kid's mind. It's not a grown man's mind in there. And so he couldn't think straight. He's on a rampage just trying to prove everything right for the person he looked as a mother. But of course, for Cyclops, he's like, this is an international incident. We have no choice but to go ahead and take him away and put him on trial. And so it does lead into a battle between the X-Men and the Hellions, which honestly is a pretty cool thing to see, but it is stopped by Empath. Because remember, Empath has the ability to make you feel some type of way. And so he was able to make the Hellions stop so that the X-Men could take the Hellions in. And so getting back to the present day, we actually do pick up with the Hellions right now on trial. All of them. And the reason why the rest of the Hellions minus Orphan Maker are being put on trial is because they fought against the X-Men on COPPA, which is a huge no-no. And so right now the rest of the Hellions are being put on trial. But while you have all the entire Hellions on trial, they're talking about the idea of Orphan Maker going to the pit. Now the pit is where you go when you break a law and you never come out of there ever again. And by this point in Marvel Comics, only two characters have been inside the pit, Sabretooth and Toad, and that is it. Sabretooth because he did kill humans at the very beginning of House of X and Power of X, which then led to the X-Men to say, here is a law. Mutants cannot kill humans in cold blood, which Sabretooth did. But then Toad got put in there because Toad killed off the Scarlet Witch. And remember, by this point in Marvel Comics, Scarlet Witch is a human. She's no longer a mutant. They retcon says she is not the daughter of Magneto. But when Toad killed her, and she did come back to life, but when he killed her, they were like, hey, you killed a human, you must go to the pit. And so when it comes to Orphan Maker, he has to go to the pit because he did kill off a human, two humans actually. And so you do have Sinister wanting the entire team to go to the pit. And the reason why, because he's hoping to hide all the different secrets that he was doing in the entire Hellion series from the rest of the Quiet Council, but also the rest of the mutant race, because he's trying to make himself a god in some kind of way. But then we kind of find out Psylocke, her shackles were not locked, which means that she can actually punch and kick him like she wants to, and she does. And the Quiet Council, they do not step in because they feel like Sinister deserves for what he had done to her, but also to the rest of the Hellions. And so then we actually jump into the trial of Orphan Maker. Now, this trial is actually very important. And the reason why, because we do see the Hellions are not going to be charged, the rest of them, because yes, they fought against the X-Men, but that was expected. When you tell someone, hey, we are going to take your teammate away like that, you might fight for your teammate. And so that what happened. The X-Men knew what was going to happen when they had tell the Hellions, hey, Orphan Maker might get locked up in the pit forever for the crimes that he had committed. And so the X-Men dropped the charges on the rest of the Hellions because they realized they were just trying to fight for their teammate. But when it comes to Orphan Maker, he still has to pay for his crimes because he killed innocent humans in cold blood. And so right now they're saying Orphan Maker must get locked away. Now, you do have other members of the Hellions and even Nightcrawler, who's part of the Quiet Council, trying to fight for the right of Orphan Maker, saying, look at him. Yes, that is a grown man, but that is a kid in a grown man's body though. Meaning that his body is grown, but that brain of his, no, that brain of his is a child's mind. He was not thinking straight because he was trying to get the approval of the nanny, the person he believes as his mother, because the last few days she has been beating down on him. And honestly, it's not even her fault because she was reborn. She was brought back to life after dying in our meth. Because remember, when you die in our meth, you come back more aggressive. And the nanny did. And so she was more aggressive towards Orphan Maker. And so that was not the true nanny right there. But the Quiet Council don't care. They're like, hey, I'm sorry. We have laws. And we cannot break a law for anybody just because how the rest of you guys feel about this situation. He killed someone. This is an international incident. And so they had to lock him away. But right before Orphan Maker is locked away, you have the nanny return. Because remember, she died in the last chapter. But because she died this time on Earth, she comes back as her regular old self. Now, unfortunately, she forgot a lot of things, definitely when it comes to her last life. But once the Quiet Council and the rest of the Hellions and X-Men are able to catch her up to speed, like, hey, this what happened. The nanny said, it's my fault. It's not fair for Orphan Maker to pay for my crimes. And so you have the nanny say, because I'm his nanny, because I am his protector, I am going into the pit with him. Now, at first, you have Charles like, no, you're not. Sorry. You don't have that right. It's up to us, the Quiet Council. But the nanny doesn't care. She wants to go with Orphan Maker into the pit because till this day, he will always be her baby. Till this day, she will always protect him. And so Orphan Maker and the nanny are both locked away in the pit along with Sabretooth and also Toad for however long that's going to be. And so the next few pages are really more of a way to kind of show us how the team is actually feeling about the idea that Orphan Maker has been locked away. And so we pick up with Empath first. Now, when we do see Empath right now feeling bad about the idea that the team is no longer around because technically he's at fault for the team falling apart. I mean, not completely his fault, but he does hold some of the fault when it comes to the team falling apart. But either way, right now we see him with the rest of the original Hellions team. Because remember, the original Hellions team was a group of teenagers that were being taught by Emma Frost, which explains why Empath was so down to actually help her out, to work for her, because he always looked up to her. And so this is why he did everything he did for her. And so we actually then jump over to Grey Crow, which honestly, Grey Crow is right now hiding in the trees with a sniper and getting ready to shoot off Empath. Because remember, he told Empath, if you ever use your powers on me or anybody else on the team, I'm going to kill you. And so right now, he's hiding in the tree with a sniper, getting ready to snipe shot Empath. But he is stopped by Psylocke. And the reason why, because Psylocke does not want him to have more blood on his hands. And on top of that, if he does kill off Empath, he'll be locked away as well with Sabretooth, Toad, the nanny, and Orphan Maker in the pit. And she does not want that because this is her saying, I know there's still some kind of good inside of you. Do not do this. Even though it could be the right thing to do in your mind, it's not. Let Empath go and put the gun down. But then we actually pick up with Wild Child. And when we do see Wild Child right now talking to, I want to say it's Dr. Reyes. I could be wrong. But we do see Wild Child right now being talked to by Dr. Reyes about taking some pills. Now, these pills are actually going to help Wild Child be a normal person. And what I mean by that is because of Wild Child mutation, he doesn't think like a regular person does. He thinks like an animal does. And so they're hoping that with these pills, he'll just turn back to normal and act somewhat normal and then be able to walk around Krakoa without acting like some kind of wild animal. But then you have Cyclops go over to his brother Havoc. Now, Cyclops knows that Emma Frost technically used Havoc as a pawn to kind of stop Mr. Sinister from being able to become a god. And so Cyclops is upset by it. But Cyclops is still not down with the idea of bringing someone back to life. Well, a particular person brought back to life. But because the resurrection protocols have been relaxed a tad bit more, meaning that more people are able to come back, you didn't have Cyclops tell Havoc, even though I feel like Emma Frost is wrong for what she did, I still feel like it's wrong to bring this person back, but I want to see you happy. And so I want to show you something. Please follow me. And we kind of find out that they have brought back Madeline Pryor. And this is huge because Madeline Pryor is the clone of Jean Grey, but it's the woman that Havoc has always loved since the 1990s. He finally has her back, and she died earlier in this series. Now, they were afraid to bring her back to life for some different reasons. Like, at first, she's a bad guy. Also, she is the clone of Jean Grey. But either way, they brought her back to life. She's here now. Here is Madeline Pryor. But the problem is that it seems like she has split personalities. Because at first, when she sees Havoc, she's like, why are you here? Why did you bring me back to life? Now I'm in your debt. A debt to another Summers brother. Because remember, she was married to Cyclops originally. They have a child together, which is Cable. But then she fell in love with Havoc next. And so for Madeline, she's like, now I'm in your debt. Another Summers brother's debt. I hate that. But then she snaps out of it and she's happy to see Havoc. And he's like, oh, that's weird. Okay, you want to grab some drinks? And she's like, yeah, I'm down. Give me a second. And when she looks in the mirror, she does see her evil version, like it's trapped inside, but it's coming out sooner or later to do harm to the mutant race. But then we see a secret meeting happening between Magneto and Emma Frost. Now, this meeting right here is really more of Emma Frost and Magneto both expressing the idea that they honestly hate Mr. Sinister. They do not like him at all. But they realized that they had to let him go. Yes, they were able to stop what he was trying to do right now, but they know when it comes to Sinister, he has other plans up his sleeve. But he's a cancer to this nation. He's a cancer to this race. But for Magneto, he says, but cancers know how to do one thing, grow. And so we need him to help us grow. But while the two characters are talking, we do see Sinister right now in his laboratory working on something. And it looks like he's combining the DNA of 5 particular mutants: Cyclops, Jean Grey, Storm, Nightcrawler, and Wolverine. But the question is, though, what is he doing with those DNA samples right now? What is he plotting next to do to the mutant race? But the book really ends with Psylocke and Grey Crow having a conversation on the beach with one another about the idea that they're both going to stay. But the question is, though, what they're going to do on the island now. What are they going to do to kind of help them relax and take their minds off the things they went through over the last few books? But either way, as they're having this conversation, they both realize that they want to kind of form a relationship with one another. And so we do see Psylocke and Grey Crow really become a couple at the very last page of this book. And that's it. That's the end of the Hellions series. That's the end of this storyline, guys. Man, it was one heck of a ride. With that being said, guys, please leave me a like down below and subscribe. Also, if you have any suggestions on books I should read, well, please let me know in the comments below, because you never know, your suggestion could be a future video down the road. But guys, I'm out of here. See y'all next time. Later.